Trump just dropped a trade bombshell that could make your next iPhone cost hundreds more. And European wine? That bottle might double in price by next week. This morning, the president unleashed two massive tariff threats that sent global markets into a tailspin. He's demanding a 50% tax on everything from Europe starting June 1st, and warning Apple they'll face a 25% tariff on every iPhone not made in America. The Dow dropped nearly 500 points within hours. Gold prices shot up, the dollar tumbled, and tech stocks, they're getting crushed. Here's what makes this wild. Trump actually said he's not looking for a deal with Europe. Think about that. The European Union is America's biggest trading partner. We're talking about over $550 billion in goods flowing from Europe to the U.S. every year. German cars, Italian olive oil, French wine, Belgian chocolate, all of it could suddenly cost 50% more in just over a week. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent tried to explain it on Fox News this morning. He said the EU proposals haven't matched what other countries are offering. But when asked if Europe could negotiate their way out of this in 9 days, even he sounded uncertain. His exact words? "I would hope this would light a fire under the EU." The timing couldn't be more chaotic. Just weeks ago, markets were celebrating because Trump seemed to be backing down. He'd reduced China's tariffs from 145% to 30%. He was talking about deals with the UK. Investors thought the trade war was cooling off. Turns out, they were wrong. What triggered this sudden escalation? According to sources close to the negotiations, Trump believes Europe is playing games. They've been refusing to budge on their value-added taxes, which American officials say put U.S. companies at a disadvantage. When European goods come to America, they get their VAT refunded. But when American goods go to Europe, they get hit with that tax on top of everything else. The Apple situation is even more fascinating. Trump met with Tim Cook just this week, and according to the president, he told Cook straight up, "Stop building in India, start building in America." Here's the thing, though. Apple has been desperately trying to move production out of China. They've invested billions setting up factories in India. Right now, about 20% of all iPhones are made there, and they were planning to have most US-bound iPhones coming from India by the end of 2026. Why India? Simple math. Manufacturing there costs about 5 to 8% more than China, sometimes up to 10%. But that's way cheaper than making them in America. Industry experts estimate an American-made iPhone would cost between $1,500 and $3,500. That's not a typo. Your $1,000 iPhone could triple in price. Trump doesn't seem to care about the math. In the Oval Office today, he made it crystal clear. He said the tariff wouldn't just hit Apple. Samsung and every other phone maker would face the same 25% tax. His iPhone actually rang twice during the press conference, which was pretty ironic timing. The market reaction tells you everything about how serious this is. European stocks crashed immediately. Germany's DAX index fell over 2%. France's CAC dropped just as hard. In America, tech stocks led the decline. Apple shares fell 3%. The dollar weakened against basically every major currency. Gold, which investors buy when they're scared, jumped in price. Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee put it bluntly on CNBC. He said 10% tariffs would have been the highest in 90 years. But 50%? That's a completely different order of magnitude. He called it really scary for the supply chain. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Apple has 5 iPhone factories between Foxconn and Tata in India right now. They're building 2 more. Just last month, they shipped 600 tons of iPhones worth $2 billion from India to America. That was a record. But it's still nowhere near enough to replace China, where 80% of US-bound iPhones are made. The infrastructure challenges are massive. Traffic, power grids, logistics networks. India's still developing all of that. One industry source told Reuters that moving iPhone production adds significant delays in costs. Apple would need to spend $30 to $40 billion to completely shift U.S. production to India, and even then it would take years. What's wild is that Trump actually talked about this at a business summit in the Middle East last week. He told the crowd about his conversation with Cook. According to Trump, he said, "Tim, you're my friend. I've treated you very good. You're coming up with 500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India." The European situation is equally complex. This isn't just about economics, it's about a 75-year alliance. The EU was literally created with American encouragement after World War II. They're not just our biggest trading partner, they're supposed to be our closest allies. French Trade Minister Laurent Saint-Martin responded on X within hours. He said Trump's threats don't help negotiations at all. The EU's position? They're ready to respond if needed, but they want de-escalation. The numbers are staggering. Europe sends about $566 billion worth of goods to America every year. Germany alone accounts for $161 billion. Ireland sends $72 billion. Italy, $65 billion. We're talking about pharmaceuticals that people need, car parts that keep factories running, chemicals for manufacturing. A 50% tariff doesn't just make things more expensive, it breaks supply chains. Markets clearly think this is serious. Treasury yields fell because investors are worried about economic growth. When tariffs go up, companies pass those costs to consumers. Inflation rises, people buy less, the economy slows down. It's a brutal cycle. The really bizarre part is Trump seems to know exactly what he's doing. When reporters asked if he expected a deal before June 1st, he said, "No, I'm not looking for a deal. We've set the deal. It's at 50%. Then he added this kicker: there's no tariff if companies build their plants in America. Think about what that means. Every European company selling to America would need to build factories here to avoid the tariff. That's not realistic. Most can't afford it. The ones that could would take years to set up production. Apple's caught in an impossible position. They can't quickly move iPhone production to America. The supply chains don't exist. The skilled workers aren't here. The component manufacturers are all in Asia. Even if they started today, it would take a decade and cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Meanwhile, consumers are the ones who will pay. A 25% tariff on iPhones means that $1,000 phone becomes $1,250. Add state taxes, and you're looking at $1,300 or more. For millions of Americans, that prices them completely out. The timing is especially brutal for Apple. They've spent years trying to reduce their China dependence, not because they wanted to, but because the first Trump administration forced them to. Now, just as they're making progress in India, Trump is telling them that's not good enough either. Industry analysts are already running the numbers. If these tariffs hit, European wine goes from $30 to $45. That German car jumps from $50,000 to $75,000. Italian suits, French cheese, Belgian chocolate, everything gets the same treatment. What's Trump's endgame here? He says it's about fairness. America has lower tariffs than most countries. The EU does use VAT taxes that favor their own companies. There are real trade imbalances. But a 50% tariff isn't negotiation. It's economic warfare. The clock's ticking now. Europe has 9 days to figure something out. Apple has about 5 weeks. Markets will be watching every development. Any sign of progress could spark a rally. Any sign of escalation could trigger more selling. For regular people, this means uncertainty. Should you buy that new phone now before prices jump? What about European products you regularly purchase? These are not normal times. When trade wars escalate this fast, nobody really knows what happens next. The one thing that's clear is Trump is not bluffing. He proved that when he imposed those massive tariffs in April. Markets thought he'd back down then too. He didn't, at least not at first. It took weeks of market chaos before he agreed to negotiate. This time feels different, though. Saying, "I'm not looking for a deal," sends a pretty clear message. He's drawn his line. 50% on Europe, 25% on foreign phones. Take it or leave it. The question now is whether anyone blinks first. Does Europe offer something new? Does Apple promise more U.S. investment? Do markets tank so badly that Trump reconsiders? 9 days isn't much time to figure it out. What do you think happens next? Drop a comment below. This story's moving fast, and your perspective matters. For now, watch those prices. If you've been thinking about any big purchases involving European goods or new tech, the clock's ticking. Come June 1st, the trade landscape could look completely different, and your wallet will definitely feel it.